Good morning, Raleigh. I'm Kayla G, and this is Rise and Unwind. Yes, we know it's a little early, but think of it as the calm before your day really gets going. We've got what's happening around town, what people are talking about, and a few things to help you wake up without needing that third cup of coffee. Yet. So stick with us. We'll ease you into the day the right way. This week, we've got this.
Thankfully, we live in a time where there are a lot of really high quality, complete and balanced diets that kind of take the guesswork out of the equation for pet owners, because a lot of science and research goes into these diets.
If you learn to live with it and adapt, and you start looking forward about the things that I can do and the ways that I can make a difference. I look at every day as a blessing.
I launched my own brand on QVC, and it's been a game changer for me. So for me to sit here and share with you the celebration of 40 years of QVC being around as a leader in the live social shopping, it's a privilege. I'm so grateful.
All that and more right here on Rise and Unwind Raleigh.
Some stories don't fade with time, especially when they involve trust, friendship, and betrayal. The new 3-part Hulu docuseries, Friends Like These, The Murder of Skylar Neese, revisits the 2012 disappearance of a West Virginia teenager and the shocking truth that followed. It's a story told through social media, personal interviews, and voices closest to the case. So joining us this morning are director Claire Tittley and former FBI agent and polygraph examiner Dr. Rob Ambrosini. Thank you two for being here. How are you?
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
All right, Claire, what stood out to you about this case, and what made you feel like it needed to be revisited now, more than a decade later?
I think one of the things that made me that was so kind of shocking about this case when I first kind of looked at it was the fact that it's 2012 and it's quite a unique era in a way for social media, because it was that era where social media was new. It was kind of a new frontier. It was the kind of Wild West, though, as well. And teenagers were experimenting with it. They were just putting their entire lives online. They didn't have the hindsight that we have now about kind of, what could possibly go wrong. But also it was an era where adults weren't really looking at social media. So nobody was kind of checking up on them. There were no sort of checks and balances. And that makes that generation of teenagers at that kind of time particularly unique. They're almost like the guinea pigs of social media.
And the series used Skylar's own words and social media posts that you said. How did that storytelling change the ways this story unfolds for viewers?
I think it was really important to us to try and give Skylar a voice. We didn't want her to just be a kind of a plot point in a true crime, where she's just the kind of victim and has no voice. We really wanted her to have agency in telling her own story, which is harder than it sounds, obviously when she's gone. But she left behind this incredible sort of archive of tweets, of digital messages, but also her own writing as well. So we worked very closely with her parents to make sure that we could just bring her voice kind of front and center, and that she could at least be a part of telling this story from the inside out. So we interview her friends as well, quite comprehensively, so that we can hear this story from the 16-year-old perspective, including Skylar herself. And
Dr. Ambrosini, you spent 24 years with the FBI. You've conducted thousands of polygraph exams. When you look at this case, what role did interviewing and behavioral analysis play in getting the truth?
Well, interviewing really played a significant role. And long before I became involved in the case, the two young girls, they were interviewed by case agents, state troopers, local police investigators. And during that process, you kind of started seeing this evolution of what really should be fact, right? When things are fact, it doesn't change, right? The truth is the truth, and it's always going to be the truth. But there were indications during these interviews that really did result in kind of like this evolution of their story. And of course, when that happens, the logical investigation is, why is this person changing that story, right? So this case is kind of about the behavior that's exhibited, the ideation, what's going on, what are they thinking, and how are they communicating? And that really speaks to the social media that you have here, which again was kind of in its infancy stage, if you will, compared to what it is now. So really, a lot of it did come down to the really significant interviews that the investigators were doing.
And one of the most unsettling aspects is how normal these friendships appeared on the surface. How does this case reveal about the hidden conflict, especially among teenagers?
I think it's. I think what we really wanted to do with this series was kind of remind people what it's like to be 16. It's very easy to forget when you become an adult, you know, and put that behind you. But about the fact that when you are that age, your brain behaves in such a way that, you know, your friends become much more important than your parents, than your family. Everything is very heightened. Your reasoning is off, if you like. Your idea of consequences, you know, is very different to that of an adult. And when you have that combined with social media that is completely I say unregulated, but unwatched by anybody else, that's where the kind of combination was kind of so dangerous, really, I think, particularly for that generation who didn't have the hindsight that we have now.
And Claire, after someone watches all 3 episodes, what do you hope stays with them?
I hope people do reflect on their own use of sort of social media, on their children, on their family as well, and remember what it's like to be that age. But also, I hope that they come away from this feeling like they know Skylar, and you know, she would have turned 30 just a few weeks ago. So that's a life that she didn't have. And she should have gone to college. She wanted to be a lawyer. You know, there's all this life that didn't happen. And I'd love for people to come away knowing and remembering Skylar as she was.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Friends Like These, The Murder of Skylar Neese, with all 3 episodes available to stream now on Hulu. I want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of action franchises try to go bigger every time, but Jack Ryan Ghost War is also digging into trust, loyalty, and what service really costs. The new film continues the world's fans already know while standing on its own for people jumping in fresh. And joining us today is the legendary Wendell Pierce, who returns as James Greer. Wendell, it's great to have you on the show, my friend. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, James Greer has always been one of the most grounded characters in this world. What do you enjoy most about stepping back into him for Ghost War?
The character of James Greer really reflects some of the people that I met doing the research of this character. You know, real CIA officers, retired, who have kind of given me their true north to form a more perfect union, and some of the debate that they have within the agency, and but understanding that the shared idealism of working on the mission, which is to form a more perfect union and protect that. You know, those are shared values, and so stepping back into the role, that's the thing that I'd love to portray. You know, as an actor, you're a student of human behavior. And what you want to do is create the world so strong that it induces that behavior. And that's the great thing about reliving a role like James Greer.
One thing John Krasinski mentioned is that the story works for both longtime fans and for people who've never watched the series. Was that something you felt like while you were making it too?
Oh, absolutely. You don't have to be familiar with the series at all. You can come to this fresh. You will see the history that we have as characters. You will see our relationship. You will see our expertise, and then also you have this story of what's happening now, this casual act that I ask a favor of Jack Ryan to do for me that actually ignites a global espionage chase. And so it is one of those things that people who have seen the series can come to and appreciate the next level of where we take the characters, and people who come to this fresh and new. But what we do over the course of a series, put into a 2-hour movie, is just heightened and it makes it a lot more intense.
And you said it's been heightened, it's more cinematic, a little bigger, but it also keeps the political and moral tensions that Tom Clancy's stories are known for. What kind of balance does this film strike between action and some of the character?
Well, you know, I think it's very important. I'm very proud of the fact that we keep the debate happening about the clarity of mission and clarity of what values are, and the political debate that happens around that, because that is happening within the world, what happens within the agency, and it makes you, as the viewer, look at it and decide what your values are. You know, I mean, that's the forum of what filmmaking should be about, the place where we collectively come together, reflect on who we are, decide where we want to go, decide what our values are, maybe bring that into our lives. And so I love that we have that debate and at the same time have some of the best cinematic thrill sequences of action comparable to the French Connection and Marathon Man and all of that, you know. So I'm very proud of the cinematic and the debate that happens within the film.
And fans, they know you from so many incredible roles from over the years, but there's something about Greer that people really connect with. What do you think keeps audiences invested in this character and this franchise?
I try to make James Greer a everyman, you know, that people look at it and go, there but by the grace of God go I. You know, that they can see themselves in James Greer. He's a man of pragmatism. He's a family man. He's flawed as he tries and did not succeed in keeping his family together. But with all of that, he is principled. And he attempts to hang on to his principles and values. And people will see themselves in that, you know. Not someone who's perfect, but someone who's pragmatic and at least tries to live by some sort of moral code. And that's who we all are, and that's who we are when we dream of who we can become. So that's the thing that makes him prescient, you know, and personal. And that's what I pride myself on when I try to portray him.
Yeah, thanks for being here today. Jack Ryan, Ghost War premieres May 20th on Prime Video. Wendell Pierce, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
More than 7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease, yet many people still don't know much about what the earlier stages could actually look like. June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, and a new campaign called This Is Alz is working to change that conversation. Joining us are Beth Battaglino, CEO of Healthy Women, and Kerry Dennis, who is living with the earlier stages of Alzheimer's disease. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm good, thanks.
Great.
Beth, so what is the This Is Alz campaign, and what are you hoping people take away from it?
This Is Alz campaign is a national campaign powered by Healthy Women to raise awareness about the early stages of Alzheimer's disease. What we want people to kind of walk away with is that Alzheimer's is not just an older person's disease. I think for many of us, we think about an older person living with the end stages of Alzheimer's disease, when in fact, we know that Alzheimer's can be part of us without us even having signs and symptoms. But more importantly, diagnosing at earlier stages provides more options and opportunities, which is why Kerry's here today to share her story of living with early stage Alzheimer's disease.
And one thing that stood out to me is that many people associate Alzheimer's only with its later stages. What should people understand about how the disease can be present earlier on?
So I'll take that. So I think that it's important to know yourself, right? I think to be aware of changes that you see. And, you know, in my journey, at home, it wasn't a big deal. It was symptoms of getting older that were easy to dismiss. Where I noticed changes was at work. And I led a large department in the financial services industry. And I noticed things that were once just easy, like my job. And, first the hard things that I did got harder, but more alarming was the easy things got harder. So something as simple as managing my calendar or writing an email. I do 100 emails in a week, and they take 3 minutes apiece. They were, sometimes taking 20 minutes plus because I couldn't find the words or I couldn't organize my thoughts to get it down.
And looking back, what were some of the changes you noticed, and what did getting early diagnosis allow you to do?
So I think I'll start with the early diagnosis. Early diagnosis was, you look back, it's a scary thing to get a diagnosis. But in hindsight, it was really a blessing. And it gave me a lot of opportunities. I get to work with my care team. I am part of the decisions that are being made about me. one of the first things that I did after my diagnosis was that I got my affairs in order. And I watched my mother and my Nana both succumb to the disease. They were diagnosed much later, and they never had a say in their treatment or what the rest of their life looked like. And I didn't want to put that burden on my family. And so for me, I was able to have that discussion and to really plan out what the rest of my life looks like. And I think, you know, another thing that's really important about an early diagnosis is access to treatments. And, you know, we are in an amazing stage where there is so much hope and promise coming down the road. And now, getting diagnosed earlier gave me the opportunity to take advantage of treatments that are most effective in the earlier stages of the disease. And so that I have a hope of a longer time being me like this with my family.
So how has knowing earlier changed the way you approach everyday life and maybe even plan for that future?
So I would say I'm a work in progress. I think part of it is I'm learning to give myself grace. You know, it's easy to get caught up in all the little things that can go wrong, but I think you learn to, if you learn to live with it and adapt, and you start looking forward about the things that I can do and the ways that I can make a difference. You know, I look at every day as a blessing. Right? I'm living my life intentionally. I'm doing things that are really important to me. This is really important to me. You know, if one person out there is feeling alone and scared and is at the beginning stages, I want them to know that, you know what, it's not the end of the story. It's just, it's a different journey, but it's one that is still filled with beauty and joy and hope.
All right, where can people learn more about the campaign and hear stories from others living with Alzheimer's?
For more information, we're encouraging your audience to visit us at thisisalz.com to hear more stories of patients living with early stage Alzheimer's.
Beth, Kerry, I really want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Sometimes it's easy to assume a little scratching or an occasional upset stomach is just part of having a pet. But veterinarians say there are a few signs many owners overlook that could point to stomach or even skin sensitivities. Joining us today is veterinarian Shawna Varichak, who's here to help us know what to look for and what role nutrition could even play. Welcome to the show, Shawna. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so what are some of the signs pet owners tend to dismiss as that's just how my dog is or that's just how my cat is?
Yeah, so, you know, you already kind of mentioned it. Probably the most common thing that I see in the vet office that pet parents think are normal but actually aren't are dry, flaky, itchy skin, occasional GI issues, and also mobility in our senior pets. Those are all things that are common but not normal and things that can be helped by being on a proper diet tailored for their needs.
And nutrition seems to be getting a lot more attention in pet care. What's the connection between diet and digestive, skin, and immune health?
Yeah, diet plays a huge role in pets' overall wellness and well-being. And thankfully, we live in a time where there are a lot of really high-quality, complete and balanced diets that kind of take the guesswork out of the equation for pet owners because a lot of science and research goes into these diets. And basically, it really helps support their immune system and overall health. And dogs with specific issues like itchy skin or GI sensitivities, there are diets like Hill's sensitive stomach and skin that can really help keep that skin barrier intact so it can help with itchiness. And it's really easy to digest for these dogs that do have a more sensitive GI tract.
And if a family decides it's time to try different food, what's the best way to make the change without creating more issues?
Yeah, and this can definitely be an issue with these dogs that already have a little bit of a sensitive GI tract. So we tell people slower is better in general. So we like to transition over about a 7-day period. So on that day 1, we're adding a little bit of that new diet to their daily portion, and then adding a little bit more and more of that new diet and taking away the old diet over that 7 days. So by day 7, we are fully transitioned to that new diet. That way we're not shocking the GI system, and it allows for a nice, smooth transition to their new food.
And for busy pet owners, are there any simple ways to make everyday wellness a little easier to manage?
Yeah, I'm a big believer that nutrition is probably the biggest thing that pet owners have control over. And there are so many amazing options out there nowadays. And I love companies like Hill Science Diet that have decades of research behind them, and they're scientifically formulated for your pet. And is probably the biggest thing that we can give to our pets, besides veterinary care, that can really help them live long, healthy lives.
All right, so where can people go for more information?
So I recommend working closely with your veterinarian, because your veterinarian knows your pet and your pet's specific health situation the best, and they're an amazing resource. And you can also go to hillspet.com if you want to know a little bit more about pet wellness and nutrition in general.
Shawna, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Yes, thank you so much.
40 years is an impressive run for any media company. QVC helped introduce live shopping to television audiences back in the 80s, and now it's celebrating its milestone with special events, exclusive offers, and new content across streaming and social platforms. So joining us today is John Battagliese and Kim Gravel. It's great to have you two here. How are you?
We're great.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, Jinx, thanks for having us. We're very excited.
All right, and Kim, when you look at 40 years of QVC, what does this anniversary mean to you, and why is it such an important milestone for the brand?
Well, 10 years ago, I launched my own brand on QVC, and it's been a game changer for me. So for me to sit here and share with you the celebration of 40 years of QVC being around as a leader in the live social shopping, it's a privilege. I'm so grateful. And also, we launched in TikTok a year ago. I think it was, John, a little over a year ago. And we're the #1 TikTok shop doing what we've been doing for 40 years. So people are like, my son, I said this the other day, my son goes, Mom, do you know you can live social sell on TikTok? I'm like, oh, really? So
what does he think you've been doing?
QVC's been doing it for 40 years. We do it for 40 years. So it's so exciting. June 17th, we're going to be celebrating Super Brand Day in New York City for 8 full hours of deals and specials and community and shopping. So it's a privilege, and we'd love for everybody to join us.
And everybody's thinking about summer right now. What are some of these must-have products that you're seeing across home, beauty, culinary, decor, maybe even some footwear?
Yeah, I mean, we've got everything you need in the kitchen sink, and we probably got that too, right? So when we talk about that Super Brand Day, we've got a lot of brands you may not know you need, right? But then we have the ones you wait for, and that's when we talk about things like Dyson. On June 17th, we have a launch of their Travel Supersonic hair dryer, which that means it's lighter. It is, going to be that smaller footprint, but it still is mighty.
It's still powerful.
And the reason you shop at QVC is because you get all of those additional things that you'd have to buy separately out at retail. So keep your eye on that for the June 17th date.
Yeah.
But we also have things like Philosophy skincare. We have our makeup. Kim has launched her own brand here, as she was saying, and has a beauty brand that is taking QVC by storm.
Yeah, you got lip glosses, you've got our Quench body cream, but I've got to say my pick of the litter is our little green Dyson portable carpet cleaner. And y'all might not know this, but I have 2 boys and a husband, 2 teenage boys, and so my carpets need this little bad boy. We need the little mini green carpet cleaner. But again, you're getting things that you didn't even know you needed, but must-haves at great deals, celebrating 40 years of not only shopping and great products, but people. Because I always say this, we're in the people business. We're about our community, and we'd love for you to be a part of it.
And John, QVC has continued to evolve with the way people are shopping. How are you connecting with that new generation of shoppers? And can you tell us anything about the new podcast and talk show coming to QVC Plus and HSN Plus?
Yeah, I mean, I am that new generation of shopper. I was raised on QVC. I would stay up way past my bedtime watching it, falling in love with the likes of Joan Rivers. And now I am launching a show called Carte Blanche, which very much in the tone of Joan Rivers. It's kind of a late night talk show. You might have a beverage or two, and we spill secrets with all of our favorite influencers, actors, comedians, and then we have the great QVC heart of it, where you are basically listening to your best friends talk and hearing those products described that you may need not only for summer but beyond. So that's going to be on our streaming platform, QVC Plus and HSN Plus. You can find that by going to your smart TV It's usually pre-downloaded on there, but you can always download it. Or you could go to QVCplus.com. Not only will Carte Blanche be there launching June 16th, so you watch it that day, then you tune into the June 17th TikTok Live, but Kim's entire channel, where it's Kim 24/7, is on there, and she has her own shows as well.
If viewers want to check out the live stream and these anniversary deals, where could they go?
If you want to shop with us, check out that live stream on our TikTok shop. Go to TikTok and type in QVC, and we will be there for 8 hours on June 17th. But we're live there every single day, so start shopping now. And you can always find us on QVCplus.com, as well as our tried and true channel on your local listings. We will be there anytime, day or night, to hang out with you and give you the best of the best.
Yep, we're everywhere.
John, Kim, I want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Summer always seems to arrive with a long list of things we want to do. You know, travel, backyard get-togethers, and maybe even a wardrobe refresh. Meaghan B Murphy has been keeping an eye on some of the trends and simple ideas that can help make the season a little easier and more enjoyable. Great to have you back at the show, Meaghan. How are you?
Yay, thank you for having me. I am delightful.
Okay, so for families planning a road trip or a weekend getaway or maybe even a bigger vacation, what advice would you give them this summer?
So a little planning goes a long way, and where you stay matters. Wyndham Hotels and Resorts really do have the perfect property for every travel personality. So I'm going away for a lot of weekends with my boys for sports. I want something that's convenient, that's affordable, and that is going to be the Super 8. That's going to be La Quinta. That's going to be the Days Inn. Now, if I'm looking to do a special getaway, maybe something a little bit more elevated, the Wyndham Grand properties are really, really exquisite. Rio Mar in Puerto Rico looks so good. And right now you can earn up to 2 free nights with the Wyndham Rewards program. If you go to wyndhamhotels.com, you can learn more.
So what are some easy ways to make summer entertaining, a little less stressful, and a lot more memorable?
Keep it simple. For me, it's like all about being in the backyard, friends, family, the grill, you know, the dog barking, kids playing. And the perfect sip for summer is Red Diamond Iced Tea. They're celebrating 120 years as a family-run business, which I absolutely love. And they're known for their freshness. So they're freshly brewed 3 ingredients. You're talking water, you're talking tea, you're talking sugar, or not. And they're sold in the refrigerator section. So unlike other iced teas that can sit on a shelf thanks to all those additives and preservatives, this is sold in the refrigerator section. You've got sweet tea, unsweet tea, my kid's favorite extra sweet tea. Cut up some peach slices, maybe a little mint. When you're having a barbecue, you get the big gallon of the Red Diamond, and it makes it an occasion.
And for our viewers looking for some summer style, what are some of your favorite essentials right now?
So this isn't going to help you, but I think a dress is a real style shortcut. It's an instant outfit, right? I'm not worried, does this match that? I'm just pulling it over my head and I look perfectly polished for any summer soiree. Now, Old Navy nailed it this summer. Their dress collection is off the charts. You've got details like smocking and pockets and apron necklines, so many prints and fabrics, really for a wide range of, you know, not just taste, but body type and sizes. And the value proposition is really through the roof. The price is nice at Old Navy.
All right, Meaghan, we're almost out of time. Where can people go for more information?
You can go to MeaghanBMurphy.com or my new Instagram @TheYayList.
Meaghan B Murphy, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, Raleigh, that's going to do it for this week's Rise and Unwind. Hopefully you're feeling a little more awake, or at least one step closer to it. Thanks for starting your morning with us, and if you want more in between shows, you can always find us on socials @Rise Unwind, and we can keep hanging out. Until next time, have a great morning, Raleigh.